Golden Spiral Media presents The Blacklist Exposed.
A 2-scoop helping of awesome doesn't leave us. Only Luther hanging in the end. Welcome to The Blacklist Exposed. I am Agent Troy Heinrichs.
I guess Ron Perlman's not coming back now, huh?
Nope, not at all.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson, and I feel like NBC is kind of like my high school girlfriend. Keep teasing and torturing me nonstop, but I love them so much I keep coming back for more. So let's talk about number 21 on the blacklist, Luther Braxton. That's the conclusion to this story, literally, which aired February 5th, 2015. Show notes and other intel for this episode of The Blacklist Exposed can be found at goldenspiralmedia.com/theblacklist. We offer you a new episode every Monday.
Well, we asked last week to all of you our profiling question of the week, how part 2 would conclude, and Terry emailed in and said, I think that Luther is out of there tonight. He obviously knows too much and will stop at nothing to get at it, even if that means probing Lizzie's brain. It's a little far-fetched, but what if someone had programmed the fulcrum information into Lizzie's brain as a child, and Luther knows the process to extract it? Perhaps Red and he both know it and Red is protecting her and the information, and if she is his daughter, someone could have done it as an ultimate punishment to Red.
Weren't too far off there, Terry.
No, not at all. I like that too. Programmed it into her brain, which they were talking about the memory stuff. We'll get into that a little bit later. So that's possible.
Yes, we will. My God, there's a lot to dissect. I was sitting there listening to it over and over, and all I kept thinking, like, man, every time I watch this or listen to it, I pick up something else.
Absolutely. Stormwalker 4 said, no, I don't think we will be left hanging, because I put a picture of Tamar hanging there in front of the guy on Facebook and Twitter. I think they will wrap Luther's part of the story. I think since he put his hands on Lizzie, Red is going to kill him, but I think the rabbit hole that Lizzie falls into could be pretty deep and will play out over the course of the rest of the season.
Pretty accurate. Over on Facebook, Daniel Summers says, I was thinking that Braxton dies. What? I don't like that idea. Neither do I, Danielle. I would be shocked if Red let him live. Would have been a little happier if he would have, because I love Ron Perlman. India Thrace, maybe it will end up being like the show Chuck. A supercomputer will be triggered in Lizzie's brain and all hell breaks loose. Haysha, nobody dies. Braxton and Red will have a face-off and Lizzie will remember something that will make her like Red less. You call that? Half of that was right.
Half of that was right.
Yeah. Mary M., he took Lizzie, therefore he must die. Good call. Emily M., I think when Lizzie remembers the fire, she will see that Red was present in addition to her dad, whoever he is, and will go back to having strong distrust towards Red. I assume, did she see this episode before she wrote this or what?
Doubt.
I assume unless they give us a whole lot of answers and context that it will look to Liz like Red just got close to her just because of her connection to the fulcrum, i.e. he was using her. Okay, you work for the show. That's all I got out of that.
That is exactly what I got out of that. And
that is Bokenkamp right there,
yeah.
Posing as Emily M.
And we know that Bokenkamp likes to write for strong female leads, so it would make sense that his pen name would be a female.
Absolutely. That's what I'm getting.
If you want to answer our episode case profile question of the week, you can do that over on our Facebook group. Just search for The Blacklist Exposed, or you can, of course, follow us on Twitter at The Blacklist GSM. And our question for this week, as we discuss the episode, is, does Lizzie have the fulcrum or something else? So just keep that in mind as we go through this week's episode case profile.
Luther Braxton is a thief, and he's hired to retrieve the fulcrum from the mysterious government agency that has been in Red's grasp for 20 years. That's what this two-part episode was about, the singular pursuit. Now, for people that didn't listen to our previous episode, this is very much like a reestablishing the show for new viewers. I mean, they debuted it after the Super Bowl because they wanted to both continue the show threads for established viewers, but they also wanted to bring in some new ones. It seems like they did, right? It was a huge hit, like 31 million viewers before DVR, right?
Yeah, it was like ridiculous amount of people watching on Sunday, and then I think it translated into somewhere around 10 million viewers coming back for the Thursday night installment.
Yeah, but this show is what? Like usually around 50 to 60% live DVR, so a lot of those numbers won't even be added in until later.
Correct.
So it did well, is what we're saying. They already renewed the show for a third season.
I would renew it too after I kicked Scandal's butt on Thursday night.
Well, it's early. I hope this move pays off, but it's still early. After Braxton kidnaps a dream doctor's son, he forces that doctor to put Lizzie under so we can learn more about what happened to her as a kid. Or did we? Since at the end of the episode, the doc basically says the same characters might be there, but in different roles. Now, before we get into the actual dream, like what we learn from that, I want to ask you, what do you think that means? Now, obviously, they're using that to manipulate the crap out of us, the audience, and say, ha, all the stuff you think you just learned, you didn't really learn. What did you take from the end conversation?
I took exactly that. It is we're showing you something to give you some information because you're crabbing about not getting any answers. However, we're running ourselves a way to write it differently in the future if we so choose.
Mm-hmm. You SOBs.
I liked it either way. It still keeps me intrigued because now we can dissect every piece of it and see where it comes out in conversations as the season progresses.
Man, it will drive you insane. I swear it will drive you insane. Well, before we get into the dream, what we're going to do is we're going to replay a piece of that for you. Now, thanks to Terry for finding this and TV Geek for getting it on SoundCloud, we actually have the clip from the audio of the dream. Now, pay attention to what Troy's going to play for you because this is pretty interesting.
Okay, stay here, sweetheart. No matter what happens, you need to stay here and not come out until I come get you. Understand?
Where is she?
She should be here. You can't.
Without Masha.
Her name is Elizabeth.
Masha!
She's not going back with you.
Steal her from me.
You wouldn't let me see her.
Masha! Get your hands off me. Think you could get away with it? Wouldn't find you?
You're not here for
Listen, you're in trouble.
because of you.
Yeah.
You told them
Yes, I did. I told them. It was my job.
to spy on me.
Yes. No, I didn't want to. I tried to protect you.
What are they fighting about?
It's a secret.
Who's Masha?
You are.
That they threatened Masha. They'll kill you if you don't give it back.
They'll kill me if I do. She's not here.
Did you really think I'd let this happen? That I wouldn't come for her?
Hey,
that I wouldn't
get away
find
from
you?
it. It's not here.
The fulcrum.
It's the only thing keeping me alive. Who the hell are they?
Split up. Start with the basement, the attic. Take it apart.
Now let's talk about some of the things we learned from the dream, okay? Now we're going to take them one by one. First thing that I noticed, Christmas time. It's definitely taking place at Christmas. No debate about that, because I heard a carol, I saw lights, I saw snow going upside down, which reminded me of an acid trip of some kind. So definitely Christmas.
Yeah, and the question is when they went to the tree farm or wherever that tree was that the same evening, the day before? Was that kind of a happy place? And who was she with when she was at that tree farm?
And where was Martin Riggs? No, nobody gets that joke. So it's Christmas time, we've got that. Now, we know the little girl in the dream is Lizzie. But she goes by, or we think it's Lizzie, I'm sorry. We think it's Lizzie. We assume it's her, correct?
We assume
I guess
it's
we
her,
shouldn't say
because
anything is definite.
What's coming out of her brain, right? So this is where we get the situation of, is it her memory or is it an implanted memory?
Or maybe she's a big sister and the other girl's a little sister. You never know.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it. I didn't even think of it that way. Like maybe she's remembering herself sitting next to Lizzie.
Mm-hmm. Because I think that is something I haven't seen come up. A lot of people are saying, well, that little girl's her for sure. I'm like, well, maybe the little girl is somebody she was trying to protect as a big sister. Or maybe she's a little sister and the little girl was trying to protect her. And Lizzie's actually representing herself in that dream.
Which makes sense in the sense of the way she was saying in that clip there, your name is Marcia. You're Marcia. Mm-hmm. So is Marcia yelling at Lizzie, you have to scream, you have to get out of here. She's actually talking to someone else, not talking to herself.
I think it's a possibility. I hope I'm not making people rethink or give them more theories than they probably already had. But it's definitely something that I kept thinking, especially on my second watch, when I finally got to really pay attention to it. Because I don't get to pay as much detail to it the first time because of the Twitter and whatnot. It was very, very interesting. And you said Marcia for sure. I heard Tasha in parts. Maybe it's my head. I heard both names.
Well, we'll have to go back and watch it a third time anyway, so we'll just turn on the closed captioning and see what we get.
I'm pretty sure it's Marcia, but I swear I heard Tasha like a couple. I think it's just the way it was said and all the noise going on around it. Okay, now Red was there. He admits that he was there. But when he has a conversation with Lizzie, I just want to point out, and I listened to this several times, rewound it, listened to it, just to make sure I wasn't wrong. He admits that he was there. That's the only thing he acknowledges from all the statements she makes after that. When she is making all the assumptions about what his role was in this fire, this dream, this night, it's actually none of that does Red acknowledge, except for the fact that, yes, I was there.
Correct. He says, I was there. I just didn't tell you exactly which character I was playing. And by the way, you can't trust the memories of a 4-year-old. Everything you know, you don't know.
What is your theory as to what Red's role? Do you have a firm theory yet?
I don't exactly, because given the time period of 26 years ago, Red's voice obviously could have been totally different. So he could be the man. We're going to call him the man and the woman in this audio clip. The man that's yelling at the door could be Red. Red could be the one that's laying on the floor, and that's why he gets the burns and eventually gets up and gets out of there. We've been told that Red is the one that saved Lizzie from the fire. Do we believe that or not? I'm not sure. We have the scars on his back, but that could have been from anything. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, I think the one thing that we could take away from this scene is that the rule of the show that Red does not lie to Liz is still in play, because he physically said, yes, I was there. So he's confirmed that. And I think we can believe that as fact.
Well, I don't believe that rule. So I'm sorry, but when he said, I'm not your dad or whatever in last season, I still don't believe that. I'm not convinced that he's not her dad.
Well, we'll refute that later on in the fan feedback section.
Just because they say it, don't make it so.
True.
That's all I'm saying. But we know he's there, so we've got that. We know that her father was there. Whoever that may be, her father was there. Or who she believes to be her father.
Right. In the gasping breath she took. My father!
Exactly. Now, what I thought was the most important piece of this entire event, mom and dad fighting. Well, what you assume is mom and dad, I guess. You hear, did you think you could get away with it? It sounds very much like mom ratted dad out, like her job was to spy on him. Tell me what you got out of that, other than the fact that it's a very unhealthy marriage and they should probably seek counseling.
Well, I go right back to John Isadrath was on the show, and he did Alias, and this is very much the Mr. and Mrs. Bristow kind of concept. And she was just put there as the Russian spy, and the marriage was kind of a farce altogether. So this is very much in line with that kind of concept where was she really in love with him or was she just there, which kind of reflects then Tom and Lizzie's relationship as well and how Tom was put there to spy on Lizzie. So could this be, I'm not going to say it's a time loop thing and the past repeats itself and history repeats itself and that kind of stuff.
Oh, please include time travel. That would be fantastic.
It's really interesting to find out that this goes deeper. And because I think we were told in this episode it's 26 years ago, right? And it said Reddington disappeared 20 years ago when the show started. So is this before Reddington went off the grid and tried to reclaim whatever happened in this fire, this Christmas Eve story, if you believe Madeline Pratt? And so I'm really interested to find out if the man in the sound clip in the dream, is that Red? Is that the director? Is it Mr. Fitch? It's really, really interesting because it all comes back to this fulcrum at the end of the day.
Do you think the showrunners like Bokenkamp and those guys in the writer's room, they have this entire scenario mapped out, or do you think they're winging it? I mean, just this particular night. Like, everybody in the writer's room knows exactly, or maybe it's just Bokenkamp, I don't know, the show creator. Do you think they actually have the entirety of that night mapped out?
I would say that this scene, this sequence, was probably the log line or the thing for the show, right? It's the crux of the whole mystery. And I would say that they know exactly what happened that evening. How they're going to weave the story to get to what actually happened, I think is maybe still up for debate as to if they have the whole roadmap planned out, because again, you don't know how many seasons you're going to be on the air. But you definitely have they're flying right now, right? They're flying in the air in the airplane, and they have the ILS approach and the runway figured out, but they don't know how to get to the ILS approach yet.
Wow, that was a hell of an analogy. I'm wondering, I keep wondering exactly what it all means. But it definitely sounds like Mom is a little shady. Not a big fan of Mom already. Apparently she ratted him out.
Makes Mom almost sound worse than Red. Maybe she's part of the Alliance or whatever.
Maybe, which, I know you keep bringing up Alias because they were involved in Alias, but I think that might be a red herring for fans of Alias to throw you off. Because a lot of you are devoted TV watchers. A lot of us. I was an Alias fan too. And I think I don't think they would replay the same exact scenario. So I think that scenario is meant to throw you off. I truly believe that. I don't believe it's going to play out the same.
Bokenkamp brought Eisendrath on just to piss me off, is what you're saying.
Kinda. Yeah. That's kind of what I think. Well, we end with Lizzie finding a little something in her teddy bear. Now, it's a good thing she never pitched that teddy bear, right?
A bunny. Was it a bunny? It was a bunny.
Or bunny. Sorry, bunny. Same. It's a stuffed
It's
animal.
a stuffed animal.
I'm an old guy. They all look alike after a while. She kept this singed bunny for decades. What do you think the item that she found, what do you think it was? Because some people are saying a music box. Some people are saying it's definitely the fulcrum. Some people are saying it leads to the fulcrum. What is your theory?
Well, we have to go back to the end of the winter finale when Mr. Fitch departed the world, right? He said, do you have the fulcrum? And Red shook his head, yes, I have the fulcrum. And then in this episode, this two-parter, Red says he doesn't have the fulcrum, and that's why Luther Braxton's looking for it. So Red's also trying to look for the fulcrum, so he doesn't have it. So in this case, I'm going to say that the safe in St. Petersburg still has something to do with this entire story, and that the item in the bunny is something that leads to the fulcrum, not actually the fulcrum itself. Because it looked like a microchip to me.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. And when you open it, it does kind of resemble a music box, but there is definitely, rewatching, if you look at it closely, there is a microchip of some kind in there.
Right.
Now, I don't know what that leads to. And I'm almost positive it's not the actual fulcrum. I'm sure it's something that will lead you to it. And if you're one of the newer viewers and you aren't aware, the fulcrum is basically the evidence that will bring this entire government organization down, in theory. Yes?
Yeah, I agree. Now, this is a bit of a jump. Okay, so let's say it's a music box and a microchip. And we have this song that Lizzie listens to, right? When her dad tried to comfort her down, we saw Red build that music box in season 1. And what I just popped into my mind was Battlestar Galactica, the reboot, and how there was this series of musical tones and notes, and they ended up being the coordinates to get you to some place. So what if the fulcrum is inside of the music, inside of the lullaby, or a message that's encrypted that you have to decipher?
Huh. And how would they get that then?
I'm sure they could put it's on the microchip so that they could digitally analyze it and then get the cipher off of that microchip inside of the music box. It's a clue.
See, my thing whenever you have stuff like this, and it's a microchip, and it happens to come out, you find it 20 whatever years later. All I can think about is what kind of technology was there 26 years ago, and is this realistic? And I know I have to swallow some disbelief here now and again, but that's one, as a tech guy, that I always have to look at that pretty closely. So whatever it ends up being, it better be from existing technology in that time period. You know what I mean?
Well, remember, everything that you're using today in technology was already built 20 years ago. They just had it on a shelf and were waiting to roll it out when it was necessary. If you're believing the government conspiracy type people.
Oh, yeah. I think there is one. Yep. Edward Snowden proved it. So ultimately, what did you get from this dream? What did you learn that you didn't already suspect?
Absolutely nothing. Because the
Nothing?
memories of a 4-year-old are unreliable, and somebody may have tempered with their memories.
Ah, that was such a... God. That's why I said, at the beginning when I said, NBC reminds me of my high school girlfriend, I totally meant that, because that's what it was like, dating that girl.
Yeah.
Just like back and forth. Oh, but I still couldn't break away.
I mean, it's like a 5-minute sequence of goodness, and then you're like, well, it might not have happened that way. It's like, what?
Psych. Gotcha. What she did say, Dr. Orchard, was that the people were there, just might be in different roles, basically.
Right. And I think that's the critical piece. So now the flight plan to get to the ILS approach is the deciphering who was in what role. And we know that there's at least a woman, a man, another man, Lizzie, maybe Marcia, if there's 2 people in the closet, not just one. And then, of course, who actually set the fire is the big question. Was it the people that were coming for the man and the woman in the sound clip?
Well, she definitely believes that Red was the one sent there. And I don't think anybody watching believes that. Right? I mean, I don't as an audience member. I know you don't. Do you think many people actually think that he's the bad guy and all? I mean, I know he's bad, but that's what he was there for? Because I firmly believe he genuinely wants to protect Lizzie.
I think that Red manipulates people, and I think that, who was it that wrote that in at the beginning? It was Emily, that Red was manipulating her to get to the fulcrum. Because once he has the fulcrum, why does he need Liz? Luther Braxton specifically was looking for Liz to get the fulcrum. So that should tell us something, that Liz is really only connected because of this one thing. And the organization even said, if Red doesn't have the fulcrum, we can just take him out.
I think there has to be a deeper connection than just that to him, to Red. I firmly believe that.
We shall see. You never know. Some of these shows, you could always kill off a major character and go a different direction, and you would be like,
that's
wow,
true.
that really
That's
happened.
true. Well, let's get into this week's characters. Now, every week, if you've never listened to the show because you're new to Blacklist, you're a new Blacklister. What we do is we go over the basic storyline, which we didn't really have a lead villain or a case to go after. This was more intensely focused on Lizzie and Red. You know, Luther Braxton just served as kind of
he's a catalyst.
Catalyst, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then what we do is we go through each character kind of to see where they're at. Let's start with Samar, Aram, and Wrestler. Now, this week, if you are new to the show, these are normally pretty prominent characters, but I thought they were kind of bystanders this episode, or these 2 episodes, actually. What did you think?
Absolutely. I think that there was not enough, especially Wrestler. Wrestler seemed like he was really put on the back burner for these 2 episodes. And that's no fault of Diego by any means. Diego's a great actor. And I love that Samar and Aram ended up getting together and they showed that vulnerability of their relationship right in front of Harold.
Oh, that was so sweet.
It was so good. And then they were talking, of course, later, and everybody's like, oh, they must be together. Everybody's falling in love with each other in the post office, apparently.
Yeah, let's stop there for a second. What was going on there? Because they didn't show any of the conversation, but Wrestler walked in and they were all like, hey, I'm kind of busy here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe they were just debriefing, sharing the story. Are you
really
okay?
close?
Yeah,
really close.
It's a tragic event that she went through. So of course you're going to be, looking to someone to like hold me, protect me, which shows her vulnerability because she's this, super badass Mossad agent, this whole time. And here she's basically put, almost to death because she was hanging as that explosion happened and Wrestler had to get her down. And so now what does Aram and Wrestler's relationship look like? Because basically Wrestler saved his girlfriend's life.
Well, it's not his girlfriend. We've never actually seen them kiss.
I suppose.
They're friends with benefits. I don't know, but it's a very sweet relationship. I think he genuinely cares for her. I don't get the same feeling in return from her. Like, I don't get the longing eyes from her, but she's also the tougher of the 2.
This seemed, though, that it had the longing eyes. So maybe it was she had to put up a front because she's an agent and doesn't want to get close. But now she sees this vulnerability and realizes, time could be short. So why not maybe look at this as a different relationship moving forward?
I absolutely love the moment where he walks in and she's there and he hugs her, like really, because when you hug people, everybody knows this. There's a time requirement, right? If you're longer than like 3 seconds, that's more than just a hug. And he was there for, 4 or 5 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, it was forever.
That's what it felt like.
Harold was even like, I'm in the middle of a conversation here. Let's hurry it up.
Yeah. No, I think Harold had this got awkward. And then all of a sudden he sees Wrestler. He's like, oh, crap, I got to cover this up. And then he gives him like a bro hug real quick. Totally. I love that. That was a great moment. He's like, yeah, see, there's nothing going on between us. I was just saying, hey. Dembe, we got a little Dembe. Very little. Every time I think they're going to amp his character up, he just ends up hanging out in the background.
This one was a little tough, right? Because they're in the factory, they're on this oil rig or whatever, and it's hard to get Dembe into the equation until they actually get back to Alaska. And we'll talk about that also a little bit later as to location of this factory. So we'll have to see how things progress.
Let's see. What else do we got? Cooper. Cooper was forced to deal with Kate Goodson, who is, I don't know, she's in charge of what specifically?
She is a CIA member who works for the director, and we don't know if the director is the director of the CIA and the director of this secret group, or just the director. He's credited as the director, so we just still don't have his name. But I think she, at the end of the day, and this is really weird too, right? Because she's CIA, she could be Black Ops, in which case she's not really CIA, and she's really just part of this group, this agency. So we'll have to watch her carefully and see if she continues to be part of the show in this relationship going with the task force. Is she now the Diane? Is she the Diane of the season 2, second half?
Okay. All right, I'm with you. What did you think about Cooper in terms of, you know, he's got to go against protocol. He's got people on this boat, or I'm sorry, on this prison that the strategic missiles conveniently only apparently blew up portions of. We didn't even mention that, by the way. Before we get back to Cooper, I got to bring that up. I love the show. The fact that missiles hit this thing and all the primary characters survive, and that's pretty much it, is a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, a little bit. There should have been at least, like we said on the Super Bowl episode, there should have been at least one death of the main group if you're coming back big.
Yeah, something. Because when we came back, I was just waiting. I'm like, well, somebody's got to die. I mean, you got a couple people that are hanging by chains in one section. And then we come back after the missiles have already hit. And, I mean, the place is destroyed, but somehow there was plenty of time for Luther and Keen to get off the boat or get off the prison. You got Red, that's basically, he just got a couple scratches on him. And, of course, Wrestler and Samar, they're okay. They're wounded. They have an awesome, Wrestler actually has a pretty awesome scene where he gets Samar free. That was great. But the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, everybody should be dead based on by the wreckage I see. Especially since at the end of last episode, when the missile was almost hitting, Red, Keen, and Braxton are all right at that window. And then when you come back, that window is completely gone. Just blown away. Totally
blown away. And I think that this is one of those TV moments where you just kind of put suspension of disbelief at this point because everybody else was knocked out. And if everybody is knocked out, then you're telling me that Luther and all of his cronies are able to recover faster than Reddington and Wrestler and the people that were there. That seems a little far-fetched to me, but I'll go with it because it's TV and it's entertaining. All
right, back to Cooper. So Cooper is going against protocol. Now, do you think he should have immediately sent people in no matter what this Kate Goodson said, or were his hands really tied?
I don't know. It's tough because you have this, thing doesn't exist, right? The factory is non-existent in any way, shape, or form. And if you send people, then people are going to know where it is. But at the same time, couldn't you just send people in and cover it as an oil rig that nobody knew about and just do a cover story for it?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, you could.
I think Harold's fine. You got to save your people first.
Okay. Let's move on to Luther Braxton. That's the Ron Perlman character. Bad guy for the last 2 episodes. Guy really wanted to hang around.
Nice.
And it turns out he's not gonna. Well, he is, but he's not. You know what I mean?
Right.
Belgrade. What do you think Belgrade was? I really like that this came up several times, and at the beginning, Red very much remembered exactly what he was talking about, and at the end, he's like, I really don't remember much about Belgrade.
I think that this is one of those where you have enough information about, this show is really interesting because we're moving forward in what is supposed to be the answers to the big questions, but at the same time, they could flash back 20 years and do so many stories and connect these characters that this could go for 7, 8, 9, 10 seasons pretty easily. And I love that all the people that are on the blacklist have interacted with Red at some point in his life over the years. And everybody knows that from this group, apparently, because we find out that Luther's actually hired by the director to go get the fulcrum.
Mm-hmm. Loved it. And I like that the little mentions of various stories. I love the Hinkle story, which we get just enough of that story to kind of understand what's going on. Hinkle died by necktie, Red's necktie. And I just feel like it's going to be a story down the road. Like it's going to be one of Red's little stories that we see.
Absolutely.
Yeah, love that. It was a good character, and I really wish that he could have stuck around.
Yeah, it was like Ansel Garrick, right? He was on the 2 episodes, and then he was dead at the end of the second episode too. So
you gotta commend this show, man. I don't know how they have enough. I don't know if they're paying these guys a ton, but they get some great guest stars in this show. With some people with some real clout. It's not just a bunch of people that used to be on a TV show 14 years ago. I mean, they actually have some solid actors of today, and I respect that. That's a great ad.
Absolutely love it.
And it never seems to be stunt casting. Whatever they cast an actor of some substance, and I always feel like, at least we're getting a good actor, somebody that we recognize in a role that fits them, as opposed to we're just going to jam them in because it'll be fun.
Yeah, and then even like Dr. Selma Orchard, right? She was actually really great in her role this week. I thought she acted it very well with the kidnapping and then doing her job as the doctor. I thought she was really fantastic.
Yeah, it's Gloria Rubin.
Yeah.
You know, she used to be on ER. She's been on a ton of television.
Right.
A great actor. You know, she's 50.
That was amazing. She doesn't look 50 at all.
No, she's still gorgeous. I mean, she's looked the same for like 20 years now. So, man, obviously goes to the same school that Sam Elliott goes to, because that guy still looks the same too. I feel bad for her. She is a dream doctor. She apparently helped Luther Braxton a time ago. Luther kidnaps her son Max to make her do these dream treatments. And she's kind of the explanation of how the damaged dreams work, and that the fact that Keen is possibly not processing these dreams correctly. I really thought that was an interesting way to do it, because I kept wondering how we're going to get to the root of what's going on. And, you know, at the end of the episode, when she explains that somebody went in there and blocked those dreams before and messed with your mind before, and we find out that there's a lot of this involved with Keen's character, I just thought that was a really interesting twist on it.
And the question will be, will Dr. Orchard come back at some point in time? Will Red keep her on the payroll, if you will? Because she does have this connection now to the mind. Maybe they even probe Red's mind a little bit. Would that be an interesting thing to see?
Well, here's a question I have. Is she a threat now?
Because of what she knows and what she heard?
Mm-hmm. Because she was in the room, so she heard it all. So is she a threat? And would she debrief CIA or whatnot about what she heard?
The question would be, if the group hired Luther, does the group know about Dr. Orchard and her past connection to Luther? So who is she a threat to? Is she a threat to Red, or is she a threat to the group? Because if it was a threat to Red, Red never would have let her leave.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is she a threat? I think, you know, now that they kind of have an idea what happened, I would think the group would go after Dr. Orchard to find out exactly what she knows.
Yep.
That seems like a thread that you can't leave dangling. You know, that's my personal opinion. Now we're back to the director. We talked about him a little bit. That's David Strahan. He's actually only referred to in IMDb as the director. So that's his name, apparently. Weird name.
Yeah, and he is much more, I would say, confident, direct, since he's a director, to Red than maybe even Mr. Fitch was, because he is just not concerned at all that Red's sitting in the apartment. I mean, after Diane's shooting, I would be afraid anytime Red sits down in my chair. But the fact that they have this conversation and they're talking, and he lets Red walk out, which is another interesting thing to say, that he can't kill Red because there's still something about Red that he needs or needs to get to or trying to protect. So there was a lot in that conversation as Red's sitting there with just Luther swaying in the breeze.
I actually liked it because, you know, we've got too many people, and Finch was afraid of Red. I mean, I think he was a friend to him to a certain degree, but overall, I think he was legitimately afraid Red has this information, where it seems like the director doesn't believe that at all. He firmly believes Red does not have the info, and he's bluffing, but he's not so certain that he can actually just kill him, which made no sense because he was willing to do it earlier.
Correct. From the conversation they were having with the group.
Yeah. So I was a little confused at the end. Do you think that he reevaluated that?
I think the fact that he was able to get that close to the director to hang Luther. I mean, Luther's a big guy. I mean, the fact that he's able to string Luther up to begin with.
Yeah. And somebody sent us a message and said, you know, he's only 6'1" or whatever. So he's not that big. We don't mean big as in he's 10 feet tall. He's a big dude. He's heavy.
Yeah. He's an
like a side of
offensive
beef.
lineman. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that was able to happen in the director's office, apartment, house, wherever it was, and then he's sitting down literally in the dark waiting for him, and he could just pick him off. Yeah, I think that makes the director wake up to say, I'm not dealing with just any crazy person. I'm really dealing with Reddington.
Absolutely. Very interesting stuff. I really want to see where they go with this guy down the road, because he doesn't seem fazed by him. In fact, I mean, he was essentially threatening Red. I do want to say, as much as I like David Strahan, he does not come across nearly as threatening as Red does.
So then the question becomes, is the director number one then on the blacklist?
No.
Because if he's able to hire other blacklisters, then he has to be part of some kind of network that can reach out to these criminals. So you would think that he has to be a criminal himself. Even it's one of those things where it's the good of the country, right? I'm doing whatever I can for the good of the country, no matter what it takes.
Troy, I'm going to give you a little TV tidbit, just from years of watching it. Years of not exercising and just sitting on my couch, like probably many of us do. In TV land, if you're in the second season of a hit show, you haven't met the most important guy yet.
This is true.
So whoever the most important guy is, he hasn't even been cast yet. So This guy is he's definitely lower on the totem pole. Now, Keen and her dreams. We talked about what the dreams were, but what does it all mean to you? So what you said you didn't really get a whole lot out of it, but what do you think it means for her character, where we're going in the show? I thought Megan did a great job this week, especially, I'll tell you what, the scene in the closet where she's yelling at the girl and she's screaming, telling her to scream, scream, scream. That was an intense scene for me. I really thought that was very powerful on Megan's part.
Well, even just when she's like convulsing in the chair and talking, and there was actually one point where it almost sounded like she talked a little bit in a higher voice, almost emulating the little girl voice rather than her own voice when she was being asked the questions. I thought that was really great as well. And in correction, I didn't say I didn't get anything out of the scene. I love the scene. The question is from the story, it negated what we saw in the scene. So what I think I know, I don't really know. That's what I mean by I didn't get anything out of it. But the scene itself was awesome. And what I think we can actually come away from that with is that Liz was definitely in a fire. Liz was definitely in her house. What we don't know is who was the one that actually drug her out of the fire. Because all she says is, you were there that night. And Red says yes. But we don't know which character Red was. Red could even be the woman if you go back to the sex change theory.
I don't have that theory. So I would never go back to it. That's your theory. I don't have a sex change theory. Leave me out of your Bruce Jenner stuff. All right. I don't want to be part of it. It's just not my opinion at all. I personally think that it's obviously meant to cause more confusion on the character. It's obviously meant so that she's once again against Red, where at the end of the mid-season finale, she was coming back to an emotional reconciliation with him, so to speak. You know, it's just one of those things where it's a dynamic that has to continually shift. Otherwise, it's really not going to make a whole lot of sense. I mean, you can't have a show run 22 episodes every season, and these guys are always on the same page. So with a mystery and serialized nature like this, there's going to constantly be things thrown into the mix that mess that up. I think the finding the music box / microchip / fulcrum leader directional pointer compass, whatever, is the fulcrum compass. Let's call it that. I think that's going to be a dynamic for the rest of the season. I definitely think it's going to be the catalyst for the events to come. Really interested in what happens from here on out. But I do think Keen is more suspicious of everyone involved than she's ever been.
Is she against Red, though? I think is the question. I think that we've been seeing Red groom Lizzie on the art of master manipulation. And I think now that she knows she has leverage, we're going to see her get closer to Red and then start manipulating him.
I think so, but I think she was doing that earlier in the season too, wouldn't you say?
I don't think it was really the same, though. She was just trying to leverage it via Tom. So I don't think it's the same kind of thing. This is truly like, I have something on you. You need to start opening up and telling me more and making me involved in this, whatever it is.
Okay. I can buy that. Whatever it is, Megan Boone, great job. I know I called her Megan. We don't really hang out, so I probably shouldn't refer to her on her first name basis. Let's go to Red. Red, the guy, the scene where he punches the guy that was haggling him for money, my favorite scene in the whole episode.
Absolutely.
The whole time, the guy, when he's like, find him, find her. And he's like, hang on, 15 seconds isn't going to kill you. All you're wondering is, how bad is he going to mess this guy up, right?
Yeah, is he going to shoot him? Is he going to torture him? Is he going to pour vodka on him and then drop a cigar on top of him? I was really waiting for like one of those types of scenes.
And since the previous episode, the first part of this two-parter, we got Red on a John McClane killing spree at the end. This one, we get to see him with some fisticuffs, just beating the crap out of this guy. I just love how Red is getting his hands dirty when Keen is in danger. Yeah,
I mean, and that shows that there's some bigger connection between the two of them. I think more than she's got something I need.
Yeah, I do too. I'm not convinced it's her dad, but I don't think it's not an option. You know what I mean? There's definitely a possibility. And I still want to say that maybe there's two girls, maybe not just one. Just people keep that in mind. I really want to know what you guys think about that. Do you think it's possible that there could be two girls? Let me know. He made sure when he finally finds Keen, Red makes sure that she will not be hurt by continuing with the experiment before he actually lets her continue the experiment. Now, doesn't that say he does care about her?
No, it says that if I keep going, I'll kill her and I'll have nothing, just like the doctor told Luther. So he backed her out so that way he could go back in again at some point, which is why he let the doctor live.
Oh, so you just think it's all manipulation? Like he doesn't give a damn about her?
I don't think Red cares about anybody but himself.
So you think he just saved her selfishly?
Totally.
I'm not on board. So let's put a line in the sand here. You believe your personal theory is that he really doesn't care about Keen any respect other than what he needs from her.
Based on everything we've seen thus far and knowing that Red doesn't have the fulcrum because he said so himself, I think that Lizzie could be just a pawn in his end game.
I'm on the opposite. I think there's an emotional connection. So we'll find out. Roughly 5 years.
At least.
Roughly 5 years. So come back and listen to us in about 5 years, and we should have an answer, I hope.
We'll at least be waiting until May of 2016.
Oh, that's funny. What did you think about the very end, the confrontation? We briefly talked about it when he says, please call my bluff. I think it's firmly established at this point that Red actually doesn't have the fulcrum.
I think that the director knows that. I think Red knows that. But at the same time, Red's got enough resources that he could still go toe-to-toe because he still has information about this safe in St. Petersburg. He still got that key from that military compound, the Tree Huggers. Mm-hmm. What is that key for? Does that key open the safe in St. Petersburg or something else? So there's still,
I believe so.
There's still pieces on the chessboard that I think Red is confident enough that he can stay alive to get what he needs.
Okay. Well, we'll see how it all plays out, man. What did you get overall from the episode? I personally thought the two-parter was great. I think the first parter was definitely more action-oriented, and we got a lot more story in part two. I thought they actually did a really good job of kind of bringing the season to a new start, I guess, for people that have never been involved. I actually have a few friends that had never seen the show. They watched it after the Super Bowl. They actually now want to go back and rewatch the whole first season. And they actually said the Super Bowl spot made them interested in the show where they hadn't been before. I don't know if you've gotten any of that too.
I have, actually. The first 30 episodes, we really will call it the Berlin Saga. And now we're on the Fulcrum Saga. So the question will be is how long does the Fulcrum Saga go? 30 episodes, 60 episodes? That'll be what we'll have to figure out. I think that they did a really, looking at it in hindsight, right? We were all kind of, it wasn't big enough for this post-Super Bowl spot. But as a Blacklist fan, if you're new, this is a great way to get introduced to the show. You got enough of the backstory, enough of the history. Tom isn't really an issue because he wasn't introduced in these two episodes, so you don't need to know who Tom was and how Tom impacted Lizzie's life at all because Tom is gone. And if they bring Tom back, I think they'll have to reintroduce him in some way to get the new people introduced to Tom. They never knew some of the agents from season one, which don't even matter anymore because they're dead. So I think that at the end of the day, they couldn't have done it any better for a two-part reboot the series, reboot on a new night. I think they're really going to be paid off very well. I think Scandal and Blacklist will be going head-to-head. Whether one's higher than the other, they're both coming in about 10 million viewers, so it's a win for everybody. Great television to watch.
I actually got a few, I think I had 3 or 4, I can't remember the count, emails from listeners from my other podcast that actually had listened to our season 1 recap that we did earlier in the year. And they actually they used that episode to start them on season 2. And they said it was a really good catching up episode for them to understand what was going on. So if you're new to the show, I would highly recommend that. I mean, go back and not to tout ourselves. And that's not why I'm saying it. I'm saying it because there's a lot of information there that might help you if you're only starting from here. So you kind of know where things are. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's episode 0 if you're on the website, goldenspiralmedia.com/the blacklist.
I should probably bring up before we fade out here a little bit, because we've got some other stuff to go through. We got some feedback, some Red's rhetoric. I know everybody loves that. But I am going to be out of pocket for a couple weeks.
Yes.
So what are you going to do?
You're going to be Honoluluing or Hawaiiing or something out there.
I am going to be on vacation. So I will be on an island somewhere, probably looking for Jack and Sawyer, and I will not be part of the show for at least 2 weeks. I'm trying to see if I can come back for one, but no guarantees. But I will miss you all, and I will try to. I'll try to actually leave my own feedback. Where would I leave feedback at?
You can leave feedback for the show at goldenspiralmedia.com/feedback. Phone number, record your voice. It's all right there.
I will do that. I hope you guys do too. How's that for a plug?
Nice.
All right. Now we'll be right back with Red's Rhetoric after this.
February, the month of love, and we love all of the great people that are part of the GSM listening family. We especially love our patrons, like Jeff, who shares with us why he listens to Golden Spiral Media.
Basically, the content. I had been listening to Triplecast for a while, but once Aero Squad came over, I started looking at the podcasts that were there and seeing the shows that they were podcasting about and the people that they had hosting that I already had relationships with just drew me over because I knew it was going to be quality content and I knew that the people that were hosting were enthusiastic about it.
Do you love our show? Then head over to goldenspiralmedia.com/Patreon. That's Patreon, goldenspiralmedia.com/Patreon to meet Jeff as well as our other supporters. That's goldenspiralmedia.com/Patreon. Thank you for your support. Red's Rhetoric is back, and for those new to the podcast, post-Super Bowl, this is part of the show where we play two different parts of what we like to call Story Time with Red. You get to vote which you think is the best by posting it in the Facebook group. Just search for The Blacklist Exposed, or you can find us on Twitter at The Blacklist GSM and give us a tweet. So our first clip tonight is from part 1, where Red is talking to Lizzie in the boiler room, sharing how he wants to come out of the dark and into the light.
In Mexico, there are these fish that have colonized the freshwater caves along Sierra del Abra. They were lost. They found themselves living in complete darkness. But they didn't die. Instead, they thrived. They adapted. They lost their pigmentation, their sight, eventually even their eyes. With survival, they became hideous. I've rarely thought about what I once was. But I wonder if a ray of light were to make it into the cave, would I be able to see it? Feel it? Would I gravitate to its warmth? And if I did, would I become less hideous?
Our second clip is from part 2, when Red finally catches up to Luther, and well, let's just say, I told you so.
Luther, I never thought I'd enjoy having anything in my mouth as much as Petty Officer Virginia Sherman. But this, my God, it tastes so good. I hesitate to swallow, and I certainly don't want to spit it out. Oh, what the hell? I told you so. Can I let you in a little secret about Belgrade? I barely remember it. I'd forgotten all about the Deutschmarks, and I don't think I ever even met Henkel. Tell you the truth, I don't think his name was Henkel. I don't know who the hell he was. But this, I can promise you, I will always remember. Then get in the damn car.
Which was your favorite line from Red this week? Post to our group or tweet us at the Blacklist GSM with hashtag #RedFish if you liked Mexican cave-dwelling fish, or tweet hashtag #RedMouth if you like the sweet, sweet taste of I Told You So.
Okay, Troy, that I never thought I'd have anything better in my mouth line is probably my favorite line in the entire show.
Absolutely was.
I lost my marbles when that went out. As soon as I heard that, I'm like, what? He did not just say that. That was not what I just heard. But man, I love it. And only James Spader could pull that line off. I think so many other actors and so many other TV shows would try that and fail miserably. But he just chewed that scenery like, nom, 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 nom.
I don't know. James Spader is just a different animal when it comes to his craft. And it's just amazing to watch him work and be able to pull that off with a straight face.
I just love people that are just now realizing what a good actor he is. You know, he's been around for 30 years. I remember him from Less Than Zero, and he was a slimy guy there. I mean, the guy, he has that down to, it's almost like second nature to him at this point. It makes me wonder if maybe he's a little sleazy.
Could be.
But he seems like a very nice man till you put a script in front of him and he gets all creepy. Well, let's go into our special agent intel. Kim emailed us and said, "Hi guys, you said in your podcast today something about the fulcrum being in the safe. That conjecture can't be correct. Fitch asked Red if he still has the fulcrum. Fitch told Red about the safe, and therefore the fulcrum can't be what's in the safe, right? ? Maybe what's in the safe is the contact list of the members in the Alliance, so Red can contact them directly, or perhaps more dirt on the Alliance members so that Red can use it for bargaining power so they won't have him taken out."
But in part 1, Red says, I don't have the fulcrum. So basically he was lying in order to get the information he needed about St. Petersburg from Fitch.
Yeah, everything I've gotten is that he doesn't actually have it. So I don't know. I mean, when Fitch asked Red if he has it, Red has to continually live this lie, correct? I mean, if he doesn't live this lie, he's dead.
Exactly.
So I think that's more of a factor of he's just covering his ass than really anything else. Saving it. keeping it going. Doc H wrote in regarding Luther Braxton Part 1. Some pretty bogus storytelling this week, agents. Number 1, the drilling rig they are using for extreme rendition is allegedly in the Barents Sea. That would be off the north tip of Norway, Sweden, Finland, etc., well above the Arctic Circle. But the sea was calm, no ice in sight, and the characters weren't dressed for anything colder than 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Wow, you're really thinking about this seriously, aren't you, Doc? I don't know what their budget is. Maybe they couldn't afford the ice.
Or coats.
Or coats, exactly. They couldn't run down to another set and pick up some coats. That is extremely observant. I commend you on that. Number 2, they reported the F-22 attack jets had just taken off and that they were 24 minutes out from the Barents Sea drilling rig. The aircraft came out of central Ohio. Only an ICBM at Mach 24 in low Earth orbit could get there in less than a half hour. Once again, very astute and observant of you, sir. My hat is off. What do you think? Did that throw you off? Because it really ruined the episode for me. I'm just kidding.
I think that episode 2 cleared that up a little bit. Okay, so in episode 2, we see that the helicopter leaves the oil rig and lands in Juneau, Alaska. So I don't think it was the Barents Sea. I think it was the Bering Sea, as in the Bering Strait outside of Alaska. And in which case, then from Ohio to there, no problem at all.
Look at you. Oh, Troy's ready, man. He had the knowledge down.
But I appreciate Doc's complete, thorough analysis, and I love it. It's great.
Do too. I'm just so glad because it almost ruined everything about the show for me. I was like, man, if those jets can't make it, I can't buy any of this stuff. So thank you, Troy.
No problem.
By the way, Ron Perlman isn't that big, 6 foot or 6'1" max. I know. When we talk about big, seriously, like I said earlier, we mean
bulky, muscular.
Bulky. He looks like he could break us in half, and his head is bigger than most of us.
Even though that punch to Lizzie in part 1 was very weak.
It was very weak, but I mean, he's got a huge melon. He needs to go upstairs and lay on his huge pillow. Is Luther Braxton a love child of Luther Vandross and Tony Braxton? Cheers, Doc H.
I didn't hear him sing at all.
You made me snort.
Good one.
That was pretty funny. Carrie from Oklahoma made this profound statement to her husband at lunch the other day, that Red Reddington is the coolest bad guy ever.
That's right. He absolutely is. Kim has a theory. What if Liz's mother was a Russian spy? She meets Red while he's in Russia. Red brings her and her baby Liz back to the U.S. and marries her. Red is Liz's stepfather. Mom hides the fulcrum in the bunny unbeknownst to Red.
Stepfather's an option.
Never thought of that one yet.
I thought of that one. That's an option. There's a lot of options. There's uncle, there's stepfather, there's friend of the family, he's no relation whatsoever and he's really an SOB like you think. There's a whole lot.
And see, the woman is Russian, just like Irina Derevkov in Alias. There you go. Kim's with me.
Did she have a Russian accent? Is she actually confirmed to be Russian?
Yeah, she was.
Okay.
Well, I mean, the woman in the dream or Irina from Alias?
I'm talking the woman in the dream.
Oh, we don't know. We don't know what she is. Yeah, but I'm just saying, if Kim's theory holds true, it ties right into Alias.
I'm telling you, that's a red herring for you, Alias obsessed. That's what that is. But this is the mother of all get off my lawn statements ever when it comes to the Red's Liz's father debate. Or mother, according to Troy. He's got some goofy theories. Kirsten commented on episode 12. I'm still very surprised people still think that Red is Lizzie's father. Everyone from Red to the creators, producers, and the actors have already stated that he isn't her father. For proof, here's a link to a website that has many links, reasons, and facts that Red isn't her dad. I hope you guys take a look, and then she provides a link to a list of like 35 points to prove Red is not the father. But this one, number 34, is the best. Ready?
Ready.
In the episode commentary for Season 1, Episode 22, beginning at the 1331 mark, the executive producers state, I think one of the things we try to do, mostly successfully, is give concrete answers and not just sort of hint at vague answers to the question of, is he or is he not her father? We have really tried to give real concrete answers. In fact, in the 9th episode, she flat out said, are you my father? And he said, no. I think one of the keys to doing that is to tell the truth. One of Red's rules is, I'm speaking the us because it's written. One of Red's rules is he doesn't lie to Elizabeth Keene, and he might lie to everybody else, but not to her. We will post a link to the other points in the show notes for this episode, Blacklist 13, over at goldensparrowmedia.com/the blacklist. I want to address that. I absolutely know that's what they said. We've talked about that on this show before, that he point blank said, no, I'm not your father. And that the theory is, or the rule is in the show, he doesn't lie to Keene.
We came up with that rule ourselves, right? We said that was our rule before this commentary came out on the DVD. So
that's true.
Pat's on our back for coming up with that rule.
I'm sure they had that rule too.
Yeah, but I mean, this commentary on the DVD, I think that you have to look at it from it's Bokenkamp, it's Eisendrath. They're almost at the point now where you're calling them Damon and Carlton, because they can spin anything and you're going to believe what they say, and then they're just going to pull the wool out from under your eyes at some point.
Here's what my argument to that, and I agree with what Troy just said. And yes, it very, very possible and probably likely that he is absolutely not her dad, because it seems like the most obvious thing. And I don't think they would go for the most obvious thing. You know what I mean? But I also think that you're talking about a character who is known to be a manipulative liar. So for me, I think the creators will continue that illusion to make you buy into whatever he says and his rules. But we really won't know until the end of the show. So part of the fun of a show like this is to have those crazy theories. And maybe it comes true, maybe it doesn't. But I definitely think it is still an option. I don't think there's been anything concrete, actual concrete. They can say it's concrete all they want. I watched the show. I haven't seen much that was concrete in the show. So I think it is definitely still a viable option. Do I think it's likely? Probably not. I honestly don't believe it's actually her dad. But I do think it's a viable option given the character and the circumstances, and I don't think anything has really been concrete. What say you?
I think that it's there for a reason, for the storytelling. I think that at the end of the day, all of the different possibilities of, well, it's not really your father because she had to kill him. He had to kill Liz in his mind in order to do his job that he's doing now. Stepfather, sex change mother, all of these are potentially out there, and at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what their relationship is, as long as they're both alive in the end and they both accomplish whatever they wanted to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're partners when they move forward in whatever the new after the Blacklist is.
Absolutely. And You know, I do want to say, Kirsten, we appreciate the comments. Very well thought out and actually researched. No doubt, you're probably 100% correct. But part of the fun of the show is guessing and making assumptions and second guessing and triple guessing what the characters have said and comparing that to the actual show. And I really think the creators would never tip their hat 100% because they can't. I think that takes away an air of mystery. Is it one of Red's rules? Yes, it is one of Red's rules. He has said that he wouldn't lie to her, but he's a liar. I mean, it comes down to, do you believe the big bad wolf? You know what I mean?
Totally. Do you cry wolf and then finally come running when you need him to come running?
Mm-hmm. That's part of the beauty of that character is you never really know what the truth is. Now, I do think that rule most likely is accurate, that she is the one character he won't lie to, as evidenced by the conversation at the end of part 2, where he only admits to being in the room and doesn't acknowledge anything else she says. But you can tell in his eyes, to me, what I got from his eyes was, you're not seeing that correctly. You don't remember that right. And I really want to tell you, but I can't.
Right.
That's what I got from his eyes. So, yeah, I believe he's not her dad. I don't believe that. But it's a fun theory to experiment with. And I think we would kind of be doing a disservice to listeners and fans of the show if we didn't address that as a possibility. Make sense?
Absolutely. And I do want to repeat the quote one more time. I think one of the things we try to do mostly successfully is give concrete answers. That tells you right there that they're talking between their teeth.
Yeah, and I don't believe that line at all because lots of unconcrete answers. More like a concrete mix. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
It can harden eventually, but right now it's still loose and fluid.
Yep. Every time I think I got it figured out, you throw a little tidbit in there. So we'll see. Well, that will conclude this episode. Be sure to follow us on Twitter this season at the Blacklist GSM. We live tweet during the East Coast feed, and we will use the show's hashtag, the Blacklist. We also have a Facebook group. Just search for the Blacklist Exposed and join us for the fun. Also, the website. We'll have all the episode intel and analysis, as well as links to subscribe in the feed in iTunes and Stitcher. That way you don't miss an episode. Make sure to visit goldenspiralmedia.com/theblacklist for details.
Intel from you guys is what we want, and you can do that a number of ways. First, give us a call at +1 304 837 2278. That's +1 304 837 2278. And if talking on the phone is not your thing, you can actually record your voice from your computer or smartphone. Just head on over to goldenspiralmedia.com/feedback and use the send voicemail widget right there on the website.
And as you leave your feedback, be sure to mention the Blacklist Exposed, and a big thank you for listening this week. And also, before we close everything out, I do want to say thank you to everybody that voted for us for the podcast awards. We will find out if we made the finalist list a couple weeks, probably a few weeks.
Yep.
So thanks to everybody that voted. We really appreciate that. If we end up making the finalist list, we'll probably have a few more things to ask of you, but let's get there first and we'll see what happens. Now, don't forget our profiling question of the week we'd like you to answer. Does Lizzie have the fulcrum or something else?
Until next time, agents, I am Agent Troy Heinrichs. That's at Troy Heinrichs on Twitter. And if you are a fan of Resurrection on ABC or Under the Dome on CBS, you can check out my other shows at the website noodle.mx.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can find me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast. That's available at thehollywoodoutsider.com. Also on Twitter at H_outsider. Be sure to subscribe, submit your feedback, and most importantly, keep yourself off of
The Blacklist. The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production, copyright 2015. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.